There she is, ready to go. Today we're going to restore this number 4 Stanley smoothing plane. Stay tuned to the end of this video and we'll find out who wins it. Now, this plane is not in really too bad shape at all. The handle and the tote are in good condition. They're solid. There's no cracks in them. The cast here, which is the body of the plane, there's no cracks in it, no chips. It's been pretty taken care of over the years. It was probably stored away, judging by the patina on it and the rust, but I don't think it was really abused. The cap iron's intact, the iron and the chip breaker. I've already taken them off before we started the video here and they're all solid. The adjustment knob is in good shape. So the first thing we want to do is take this plane apart. Now those that are not familiar with this and the parts of this plane, I'll go over them as I take them off here. This is the cap iron. Right here is the chip breaker and the plane iron. This bottom assembly right here that the iron rests on is called the frog. And that's pretty much the hand plane parts. Okay, we got the frog off the plane and both the rear tote and the knob. And what we're going to do first is use this stuff, and it's called a bow shield, T9 bow shield. I like to use this stuff. It's one that really takes the rust off, and you just really got to do is just spray it on and soak it on there really well and let it set for a minute or two. And a lot of the surface rust will come off. It won't get the rust out of the pitting. You have to do that by hand, but we're really show you what you got to work with. Now the next thing you want to do is get you a nice flat reference surface. This is a piece of granite. Now, I'm not sure how flat it is, but it is flat enough to true up the soul of a hand plane by far. You can get these at the home center, really inexpensive. So what I like to do is I get this sandpaper that's got adhesive on the back of it, and I go to the flea markets to get this stuff by the roll. That's really the best value I've found, is going to a flea market and finding a guy who sells automotive tools, and I try to get a few of these rolls every time I go. This is 40 grit, but 80 grit would work, or 60 grit. This is kind of a little bit more coarse than you need for this operation, but that's what I'm going to use. That's what I got on hand right now. So we're going to use this first for the bottom of the sole, and then we'll move up to our next grit, which is 180, and that's really going to clean up those scratches left by the 40 grit and make the hand plane look a lot nicer. Just like when we sharpen our chisels, you want to take a Sharpie and make you a little grid on the bottom of this hand plane to see where the high spots are and to check your progress when you're flattening the sole. As you can see, that the high spots are on the edges and the low spots are in the middle of this plane. That's what you usually have whenever you tune up one of these old hand planes. The middle is usually worn down, and the sides and the front and the back are the high spots. This is working up really nice. Well, I didn't video this whole entire process here. Does that take up the whole video? But it took me about 10 minutes, and I went through about 3 different pieces of this sandpaper. This is my last one. You can see the grime that's on there in the yarn. And if you're interested in what yarn means, I'll explain it here in a few minutes. But anyways, right here's the bottom sole of this plane, and it looks really good. There's a little bit of pitting here toward the heel that it's pretty deep, and it's not really significant. And I'm not a perfectionist, and I get these hand planes ready to use. I don't get them perfect, as in perfect condition that's going to set up on a shelf somewhere. I get these hand planes into somebody's hands that's going to use them. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to do the sides here of the plane. We're going to use the same method we use for the sole. Well, we're going through our 40 grit on all 3 faces of the plane, and we got all that surface rust removed, and it is flat enough, easily flat enough to be used as a hand plane on wood. So now we're going to move up here to the 180 and go over all 3 faces again. And this is really just going to clean up those scratches that was left by the 40 grit and really make this plane look nice and feel a little bit better in your hand. Well, it took about 20 minutes to get this hand plane back to where we need it to be as far as the sole is concerned. There's still a little bit of pitting on the bottom of the sole, but that's not going to affect how it works. It's still going to be a fine user. The sides cleaned up pretty nice. We've got them all looking really shiny and got the metal cleaned off. Got all the rust removed. There's still some pitting like I said, but all in all, it cleaned up really well. So next we're going to move on to getting the frog ready and reinstalling it on the plane. And then we'll do the knobs and the blade and we'll be ready to go. Now with the frog, if they're in good shape like this one, there's not a whole lot to do. This is the lateral adjustment, which moves the plane iron from side to side. As long as it doesn't move too freely and there's still some tension there, you're in really good shape. I'll put some oil on that and get the rust off the top of it, on the back of it, we'll be fine. This knob that turns back here on the back is what advances the plane iron in the hand plane. It spins smoothly. All the mechanics here of this process are in good shape. I looked at all of them and nothing needs to be replaced. And this right here is where the blade iron or the plane iron will rest on this frog. What I will do is I will make sure this is nice and flat and clean this up and get some of the rust off of it. And that's basically all there is. The frog, when they're in good shape like this, it really takes a lot of the work out of it and gets this process going a whole lot faster. Alright, we got our frog trued up and flat, and all the metal surfaces that come in contact with the sole I've polished up and made sure they were flat and free of rust. And what I'm going to be doing while we're getting the front knob and the rear tote ready is I'm going to soak all the essential screws that hold this plane together in some bow shield here. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. Bow shield, or who knows. Anyways, we're going to soak this stuff here and let it be soaking. Longer the better with this stuff, and gets all this yarn off of it. And so people have asked me since I started these videos where I'm from. Well, I'm in Tennessee. I've born and raised here, been here my whole life. And the word yarn, I use that term a whole lot. Is something I grew up hearing a lot. My grandmother really was the first person I ever heard say it, and nowadays I don't hear a lot of people even use that term. It's a southern term, I'm assuming. But anyways, what yarn is just grime and junk. And an example would be, she would be in the kitchen And she would wash the dishes after we'd have dinner, and she would go to clean out the drain, and it would have some food particles in it and just the nastiness that comes off plates when you're done eating. And she would clean that out of the bottom of the sink, and she'd always say that's a bunch of yarn down there in that sink. So it's kind of just the nastiness and grime that's on something. So ever since then, since I was little, I've always used that term yarn. So, there you go, yarn.